On the Find Gaia Facebook page, the area of Priest's Square next to the field where the clothing was found was scoured by volunteers on November 9. So, the place where Gaia's clothing was found had already been searched multiple times, and then 2 days afterwards, Gaia's body appears a short distance away near a coastal path. It's hard to imagine that a body was missed so close to the clothing. So not only were Gaia's clothes placed there, but her body seems to have been potentially placed there after the fact as well. The question is, how exactly was she placed there? It seems to me there are a couple of possibilities here. Firstly, as has been stated, this was a cold time and Gaia had left her coat at the home of the arrested woman. It could be that Gaia left the town and headed up into this remote area and had then suffered from hypothermia at some stage and had fallen by paradoxical undressing and then she fell there. However, I found that hard to believe because it becomes very difficult to explain away how she managed to evade the searchers for all of that time, especially once they discovered the clothing. There were helicopters overhead with thermal imaging equipment. If there's something on the ground producing heat, you're not going to miss it. In addition to that, how in the world did the dogs miss her scent in this scenario? It's very odd. The second hypothesis here has got to be third-party involvement. Now, to be clear, I'm not sure what this may have looked like either. There was no evidence of a vehicle being near the location she was found, and you'd expect to see that. Could someone have carried her there? That would also be difficult, especially with thousands of people in the area. How did she get there without being discovered? This is something I've always struggled with in this disappearance. Now, let's get bizarre again. Why not? This was reported by The Guardian, still on the 19th of November 2017. The teenager, Gaia Pope, whose body was found 11 days after she went missing from a seaside town, had not suffered any injuries that would suggest foul play, detectives have said. A post-mortem has taken place, but the cause of passing may not be known for some time as toxicology and other tests have been carried out. Specifically, Paul Kessel stated this: the post-mortem examination has not identified any injuries to suggest any other person was involved in her passing. So what we can glean here is that Gaia passed away without any real injuries to speak of. So what happened? I said a minute ago that the second hypothesis may have been as a result of third-party involvement, but there was absolutely no evidence of that. The first hypothesis I mentioned about evading the searches also seems equally unlikely too, just for different reasons. I also just wanted to clarify that on the 20th of November 2017, law enforcement clarified that the 3 earlier arrested would face no further action, and they themselves thought about bringing forward their own lawsuits against the police. Things like this quickly get out of hand, and that's why I've refused to name them throughout this, because mud sticks. And as said, it's already too late, but their names will always be associated with this now in some way. Anyway, here's another piece of interesting information that was reported by the Daily Mail.
Pizza! You dropped my dishes!
Don't worry, they got moved on power settings. It traps, locks, and removes 99% of grease, so it doesn't get passed from dish to dish.
Clean and stacked.
Like ducks in a row. Moved on power sets.
Where'd this come from?
The pantry. Where did you come from?
The pantry.
By the Daily Mail. Gaia's clothes and body were eventually found in a location thought to be one of their known haunts, one said to have been repeatedly searched. Her cousin, Mariana, stated, "It should not have taken 11 days to find her so close. We need to know why." She's referring to the body being so close to the clothing, and honestly, she raised a very good question. There has never been a great explanation given as to why it took so long to find her, especially in this area that had been searched many times over. I did find a statement from the authorities and reported by the Daily Mail. The police defended its searches, saying it had deployed significant resources which were intelligence-led and directed by specially trained police search advisors. The area where Gaia was found was deep within very thick gorse and undergrowth, close to a cliff edge. This would have made it incredibly difficult for even a helicopter to see her using high-tech thermal imaging. It also required the expertise of specialist recovery officers to reach her. Okay, so if it required that kind of expertise, then how did she get there in the first place? Once hypothermia sets in, a person becomes very groggy, slow-moving, confused, and yet this place apparently required specialists to get to. Do you think that was ever questioned? Nope. Maybe she fell. Would you have expected injuries in that case? I'm not sure. Now we need to move to February 2018 because there were no real updates to speak of until that time. Right, so let's have a look at The Guardian. where we find out more information from the inquest. Gaia Pope, the Dorset teenager whose disappearance sparked a high-profile police inquiry, passed away as a result of hypothermia, an inquest has heard. The coroner's officer, Andrew Lord, said a pathologist, Dr. Russell Delaney, was initially unable to establish the cause of passing, but later determined that she had passed away as a result of hypothermia. The family, however, still wanted answers and were demanding to wait 11 days to find her. You can see why they weren't happy here. Their clothes being found in an area searched many times, and a guy's body was found 2 days later not far away. Yeah, I think most of us would have questions about that. Mariana seems to have some particularly tough questions that she wanted answers to. Here's what she said on the 6th of May 2018. The police talked a good game. They told us they had dogs out and helicopters up with thermal imaging equipment so sensitive it could pick up a signal from a body even up to 48 hours after passing. One of the officers said to me, if she was out there, we'd have found her. When she was eventually found, I could not believe it. Every relative and close friend of Gaia who asked where she might go would have put Priest's Way at number 1 on the list. If there were helicopters flying overhead, how did they not see her, on foot even? If they stuck to the path, they would have seen her, if they were looking. I think Mariana raised some excellent points there, to be honest. And while the family may have had the view that the police just did a terrible job, I think it's well worth considering the idea that she wasn't actually there at the time of searching. I must admit, I found it very difficult to believe that they could have simply missed her there with the dogs out and the helicopters. The dogs aren't relying on their sight here like we are. They can follow a scent, and any search dog handler will tell you that if the scent was there, the dogs would have found her. Only they didn't, and that never happened. It's very odd, and something just doesn't quite sit right in this disappearance. A full year on from the disappearance now, on the 7th of November 2018, the family stated that they still know very little more than Gaia had passed away as a result of hypothermia. The police investigation was also being investigated by watchdogs, but honestly, it has always felt like confusion has surrounded Gaia's disappearance since it happened. That really is the best way of putting it. No one really knows what happened here. As said a few times now, even the discovery of the clothes and of her body is odd and hard to make sense of. The police made a lot of mistakes initially investigating that family that we've spoken about, presumably because nothing else was making sense here. Just some other notes. Connor Hayes, the person of Gaia accused of indecent assault, was actually jailed again for the exact same crime in December of 2018, against someone else obviously. Honestly, if someone keeps reoffending in the exact same way every time, actually let's not go there. On the 18th of October 2019, the family were again frustrated because the investigation over the police investigation was repeatedly breaking some deadlines with little explanation. I actually found a statement made by the family. Every deadline we have been given has been broken with little explanation, while decisions are made without us behind closed doors. Even the monthly updates we were promised, we have had to chase for. Now, less than 4 weeks before it was due to resume, we are told that the inquest will be postponed yet again. We have always maintained that what happened to Gaia is a matter not just of our private grief, but one of public concern. I fully agree with that statement. On the 16th of September 2020, the family stated this at a pre-inquest hearing. Vital questions about Gaia's passing and the adequacy of local support services remain unanswered. We know that there are significant gaps in the evidence. The one thing we want more than for this to be over is for this to be effective and prevent future harm. The last update that I could find was from the end of January 2021, and the inquest seems to be pushed back because of the current events that we're all dealing with at the minute. So the family haven't given up, which is good, and I hope that they get the answers that they deserve. With that, let's move on to the final disappearance. Nora was 15 years old when she disappeared, and at the time she was with her family on holiday near the capital, Kuala Lumpur. There, the family was staying at the Sun holiday resort right on the edge of a rainforest. This was reported by The Independent on the 4th of August 2019. A girl from London with learning difficulties has gone missing in Malaysia, a family friend has said. Police with sniffer dogs have launched a search for Nora. Her parents discovered she was not in her hotel room until 6:30 in the morning on Sunday, and that the window was open, according to a friend. The friend added that Nora's parents were frantic, which you can obviously imagine here, and she also said that it's completely out of character for Nora to just go wandering off. In my opinion, Nora's disappearance was very odd, and right off the bat, as you probably expected, the search dogs could not locate Nora's scent during the search. Well, there's actually more about this. So from what we understand so far, the working theory was that Nora had exited through the window and had entered the rainforest. However, a lot of people don't believe that she would ever do that because she was practically attached at the hip to her parents. We'll get into all of this. The Irish Times then reported that because Nora's mother is Irish and her father is French, their respective governments had reached out and just helped to support. That did actually translate into search efforts too, and it did certainly mean that diplomats in the country were helping out with guidance. Still, as per the 4th of August 2019, the Daily Mail offered some more information in regards to the thought process as to what may have happened. They stated that the authorities had estimated that she'd gone missing sometime around midnight. It's not clear exactly why they thought that, but that was the suspicion. The Daily Mail stated this: "It is not yet clear if Nora left her hotel room of her own accord or whether she was taken." That statement is the dividing line of the two camps, and we'll explore this as we move forwards. Right, so on to the 5th of August 2019. The Guardian published an article titled "Nora Quarry, Malaysian Police Deny Case is being treated as possible foul play." However, the Guardian also stated this: "After Malaysian police insisted that it was not being treated as foul play, the charity said, contrary to several reports that the police are not treating Nora's disappearance as though it could be a result of foul play, the family have been told directly by the police that they are treating it as both potential foul play and as a missing persons case." Interestingly, the article from The Independent stated that they realised Nora was missing at 6:30 a.m. However, The Guardian reported, "Nora's father raised the alarm when he discovered her missing from her bedroom at 8 a.m. on Sunday. Her window had been opened." Police said they have dispatched more than 100 officers and sniffer dogs in the resort and surrounding areas. Both statements here can't be true, so I'm not sure what's happened here other than someone's got it wrong. But because this is the later article, it's probably the best bet to assume that the Guardian's report is more accurate. Matthew Sell, who is the chief executive at LBT Global, which is an overseas crisis support group, stated this: "This is a very vulnerable young girl missing at a remote location. She has been missing for over 24 hours now, and it is imperative that every resource available is deployed to search for her." And finally, just as per this article, I want to bring you the feelings and the thoughts of the family. Nora's father stated this: "Nora is a child with special needs and has learning and developmental disabilities which make her especially vulnerable, and we fear for her safety. Nora would not know how to get help and would never leave her family voluntarily. We now consider this a criminal matter. We are appealing to everyone to assist the local police in any way that they can." So as per this point, we can see that the authorities' official position seems to be that this was accidental. Their private position to the family seems to be that they're looking in both directions, so that it could be foul play or she could have just wandered off. The family's position at this stage seems to be that it was almost certain foul play. That's pretty odd, honestly, but I think more so indicates that law enforcement have no real idea as to what happened here. My personal position is that I'm with the family here, in that I've worked with many children with special educational needs, and I do believe that she wouldn't have just gone out into the pitch black jungle alone. Right, so let's now have a look at the Daily Mail. Just to solidify what was just said, here's what was reported. The family of Nora Quarry insists that she was most likely taken from her hotel room in Malaysia and have slammed the police for claiming otherwise. Her parents have described the police's claims that there was no foul play as very strange. We actually get some more information in regards to the exact point of disappearance. This is what Matthew Sell had to say. Nora's family are extremely concerned and believe at this stage the most likely scenario is that she was taken. The room was accessible to members of the public and there is no security due to the nature of the resort. The accommodation leads straight out to the open jungle, so there is a lot of concern about where she could have been taken or where she is now. Because this was making headline news and many people were talking about it, and obviously because they wanted to find her, over 200 police officers have been assigned to the search. And remember, we saw the 5th of August 2019, so that was fairly fast. At this point in the research, I was actually feeling pretty damn frustrated because, as reported by The Sun, Nora's distraught parents woke at 7 a.m. on Sunday to find her room empty and a window popped open. Good actual Lord, is it 6:30, 8 or 7 in the morning when this discovery was made? Very frustrating actually, because these details are important and it's not clear to me why all of these articles contradicted each other. You think that this might be settled? The BBC has stayed 8 a.m, so let's just go with that. Right, Matthew Sell made another statement. Here's what he said. Nora would not have been able to open the window on her own and it was found propped open. They also know that Nora would not have walked off anywhere on her own. There was no sign of a struggle in the room, but we still believe that she was taken.
Some days all you want is an escape into sheets washed with downy, gentle, soft and fresh, with a subtle velvet scent and softness. Downy breathes life into your laundry.
Downy.
He was taken. It seems to me that as of right now, there are three possibilities here. One is that Nora simply left on her own accord, though if it wouldn't have been possible for her to open the window, then that's difficult. The second is that as the parents suspected, there was third-party involvement here. The final suggestion here, and obviously I can't say whether this is the case or not, but is there any possibility at all that she might have seen something through the window that caught her attention and maybe drew her in? You know, perhaps an animal or someone with not so good intentions. Obviously, it's very doubtful that an animal could have helped her open the window, mind you, but could someone have helped her from the outside? It's not clear, but that is something that crossed my mind when first hearing of Nora over a year ago now. But it's just speculation and nothing more. The BBC gave some information in regards to the specific resort Nora disappeared from. Here's what was said. According to its website, the Sun is a 12-acre orchard resort in the foothills of the Titiwangsa Mountains and sits next to the 4,000-acre Barumbum Forest Reserve. It has a maximum capacity of 20 adults split across 7 houses. The resort's nearest neighbours are 2 Tamuan villages where most of its staff are from. Probably butchered a lot of names there. I apologise if that's the case. But we're moving on to the 6th of August now, and what you're about to hear really set off the alarm bells for me, because this is just odd. The Daily Mail published an article titled Police Dogs Lose Trail of Missing Nora Kwon just yards from Jungle Eco Resort in Malaysia, where she vanished. Let's have a further look. The family of a girl who disappeared on holiday in a Malaysian jungle resort believe police are missing vital clues by ignoring fears that she is taken. Relatives lashed out after it emerged that sniffer dogs lost the scent of Nora Kwon just 100 yards from the Eco-Lodge bungalow where she vanished. Authorities in Malaysia are adamant that the British 15-year-old who has learning difficulties knowingly ventured out of the rented property that borders thick jungle and got lost. The search has so far seen hundreds of soldiers, police and firefighters, along with sniffer dogs and a helicopter scour the jungle. 180 individuals continued to comb a 20-acre area of dense forest last night. Police Chief Mohammed Mat Yusuf said, "We will do our best and will not give up hope. We feel she did not go far. We have nothing that suggests third-party involvement in her disappearance. We don't have an ounce of evidence to suggest that." The police chief said sniffer dogs were used to investigate the scene only hours after Nora's disappearance. He added, "They only picked up a scent some 100 metres from the resort. They lost the trail after that." Okay, there's a lot of rich information to take in here, but I will say that from my understanding, the dogs picking up a scent like that only to disappear is atypical if she was still in the area. Now, to be fair, when you look at research journals on the effectiveness of search dogs, you'll find that they normally indicate that the dogs are very effective, but that further studies are required in terms of being location specific. So it could be possible that the effectiveness increases or decreases depending on the environment. It is worth pointing out that search dogs have been used for at least 600 years in all manners of locations, so to be fair, that probably speaks for itself. So what could have happened here? The search dogs are able to follow the scent for around 100 metres, which is around 110 yards, and at that point they completely lose the scent. The way this has been reported, and especially because the jungle was where the search was being conducted, the search dogs likely led them towards the jungle. That means that it's unlikely there was a vehicle there since the window opens up to the jungle. So why was her scent lost? Where did she go exactly? As she ventured into the jungle, did her scent just gradually disappear? It's an odd factor, and I'm not really sure. Typically, you'll hear from dog search leaders that if the scent is there, the dogs will find them. Here are some other interesting comments from Matthew Sell and others. Matthew said, Nora never goes anywhere by herself. We have no reason to believe she wandered off and is lost. The resort then said, the Eco Hotel admitted the window in Nora's bedroom may have been opened from the outside, contradicting earlier police statements. The trust working with the family then said this, it's unlikely that Nora could have opened the window on her own. She's understood to have been sharing the bedroom with her younger siblings. From what we know too, it doesn't appear that the younger siblings heard or saw anything. Moving on to the 7th of August 2019, we actually start to hear some very odd and suspicious information. On this day, the Malaysian police, for the first time, publicly admitted that there was a possibility that Nora could be taken. Previously, they'd said that there wasn't any evidence. However, on the 7th, they confirmed that they discovered unidentified fingerprints at the jungle cottage where Nora disappeared. The police chief then refused to give any further information. However, he did say this, and this was reported by the Daily Mail. Police Chief Zakaria also clarified that it was the window in the living hall downstairs that was left open, and not the one in the bedroom upstairs where the girl was. He then declined to say if the window could be opened from the outside, saying the investigation is ongoing. That's particularly fascinating because so far it feels like we've been led to believe that the window in question was inside the bedroom, but now we're learning that the window of concern was downstairs in the living hall. So what's the theory in that case then? That Nora had gone downstairs for a drink or something like that and then left through the window? Or are we saying that someone else came inside the cottage? That's just very strange. Interestingly, The Guardian reported that members of the Senoi Prague have probably butchered that, but they're a special police team comprised of indigenous tribes who are famed for their forest tracking skills, and they combed through the dense forestry. Their search too ended in failure though, and it doesn't appear that they were able to find any footprints or anything of that nature. We have some amount of confusion again, because on the 8th of August 2019, the BBC reported that her bedroom window was open, but we've literally just heard the Daily Mail report that the police chief said it wasn't the bedroom window, but it was the downstairs living hall window. I don't really know what to tell you about these contradictions, other than these are some basic facts you think we'd come to an understanding of. Right, just putting that aside, on the 9th, we hear that footprints have been discovered in the jungle. This is what the Independent had to say. Footprints thought to belong to missing British teenager Nora Quarry have been discovered in the Malaysian jungle. Authorities are operating on the theory that she is lost in the jungle and have deployed hundreds of officers, drones and helicopters within a 6-kilometre radius of the hotel. The footprints were found by the Fire and Rescue Department sniffer dogs on Thursday, according to the Division's Assistant Director, Ahmed Mokhtar. What's interesting here is that it appears as though the footprints indicated that Nora was alone, and that I can't find mention of it looking as though there was more than one person present. This was obviously their focus point now, but further searches of the surrounding area didn't yield any results. They didn't find any further clues, but the teams were optimistic. On the 10th of August 2019, we learned that the authorities began to scale the search down from a 12-kilometre radius to just 4. You've got to imagine that because they weren't able to find anything at all after the discovery of the footprints, they just couldn't believe that she'd gone that far. The Deputy Commissioner said that they just don't have any leads at all, but they are continuing the search, and that there was just no evidence at all to point in the direction of foul play. Right, we're moving on to the 12th now, and things are about to get weird. So weird actually that I've rewritten this book 5 times, so let's get this out. I'm just going to read you the headline, and there's many just like this one. This one is from The Sun. Missing Nora Quarry was taken by a genie, claims Malaysian shaman, brought in by cops to crack the case. So firstly, what's interesting to me right off the bat here is that the police themselves brought the shamans in, which seems to indicate that there are these kinds of beliefs present among the force too. Here's what was reported. Malaysian shamans who have joined cops from Ireland France, and the UK to search for missing Brit Nora Quarren claims she was lured away by a genie. As the desperate search for Nora enters its second week, the medicine men have been seen crying and praying in the dense jungle for her safe return. Wearing skull caps while performing ancient rituals, the shamans sat cross-legged on the jungle floor and covered their eyes. Right, one of the shamans, called Khalid Mohammed, said that a genie is an invisible spirit that inhabits the earth and is able to influence people by appearing in the form of humans or animals. As someone who doesn't know all that much about this kind of thing, the only thing I can really add is that I find it absolutely bizarre that you can find these kinds of accounts throughout the whole world who speak of these kinds of entities almost verbatim. Anyway, back to Khalid. He said that the genie was drawn to Nora because she has special needs and had chosen Nora as its stepdaughter, which is probably the creepiest thing we'll all hear today, I'm sure. He said, "Tonight I will ask for the spirit to return her from where she was taken and the condition they took her. But they will ask for something in exchange. That will be between me and them. Most important now, the child will be released. She is here now, so we will stay here tonight to see if we can find her, and then we can know why she went missing." Can you even imagine if there genuinely is more to these kinds of beliefs and superstitions than we actually realise or are willing to believe? I said earlier that perhaps she was drawn to something outside. Just how creepy would it be if it was something like this pretending to be an animal or a familiar person? The thought of that is just awful and sick. What I do find interesting though is that these shamans were brought in by the police, so they clearly take these beliefs and rituals very seriously. Right, now we're moving on to the 13th of August 2019, because this is when the discovery of Nora's body was made, 10 days after the initial disappearance. It was a local team of hikers who found her around 1.6 miles away from the resort. Let's just have a look at The Guardian for more details. The body was uncovered near a stream at around 2 p.m. by members of the Seremban Hikers Club who joined police. The area in the Batemba Mountains where the discovery was made, and which was described by the police chief as not an accessible area, had been scoured by rescue teams days earlier. How can the area simultaneously be an inaccessible place, and yet there she was? It's also interesting to note that they had searched that very area before. The Daily Mail offers some more details, and it's important to state that she was found completely clothesless, including missing footwear, though she was barefoot initially when she left. We've heard Nora's body was found near a stream, and the Daily Mail states that there was a waterfall nearby too, and the Telegraph said that this was in a ravine. Just interestingly, and perhaps a coincidence, she had told her family that she was excited to visit a waterfall when they first arrived. When they first found Nora, the police chief was asked directly to comment on the state of the body, presumably because a lot of people were feeling that this could have been as a result of foul play. Well, the police chief refused to comment on the condition right away. The day afterwards, on the 14th, we get to hear some brief comments from those who carried out the autopsy. They basically stated that they weren't able to determine the cause of passing, and the deputy police chief said that there's nothing they can say yet until they know more. Okay, now we're going to get weird again. This question was posed by the Daily Mail. Was Nora moved? Volunteer who found Nora's body believes she could not have been there when search teams first checked the area because she was lying in plain sight with her head on her hands. Let's hear a bit more about that. A volunteer who found the missing teen's body said today that he believes she could not have been in the spot for very long because previous searches of the area would have found her. He theorized that she had been lost in the jungle and had walked to a waterfall close to where she was found in order to get a drink and had collapsed. That's really strange. The whole thing is strange, actually. Just the fact that she went out in the first place. I can't even imagine how this must have felt for her loved ones. But I do know that they wanted answers. Still on the 14th, Nora's parents questioned as to whether she could have been placed there after the fact. And you can absolutely see why they would have posed that question. It's so hard to believe that she was there for the entire time. The indigenous people know this type of terrain better than most of us can ever even appreciate. And when they said that she's highly unlikely to have been near there when they first searched the area, I believe them. You'd imagine that if she was close by, the searchers or the dogs might have found her, but that didn't happen. So just to be specific, the questioning coming from the family and posed by Matthew Searle was this. We have a large amount of questions. One of those questions is, has the body been there all the time, or is there a third party involvement? Was the body...
We pretty much take it all. Fridges and dishwashers, dressers, drawers, couches, mattresses, bed frames, concrete, things like that. Saying they notice or 3 weeks in advance. That's what you get.
Or is there a third party involvement? Was the body dumped there afterwards? Right, let's move on to the 15th. I want to be very careful about how I express this next part. Those performing the autopsy stated that they believe that Nora passed away as a result of hunger and stress. They said that it appears as though a stomach ulcer had burst and that this was the cause. They also said that there was no sign that she was taken, nor was there any sign that she'd been assaulted or indecently assaulted. According to the Sun, they also stated that she'd been alive for a week before passing away. I found that statement odd, actually. Perhaps there are specifics that aren't being made clear, but Nora's body was found on the 13th, so 9 days after she went missing. The exact location her body was discovered had been searched days prior, so if they're confident that she was alive for 1 week before passing away, doesn't that leave 2 days unaccounted for when she wasn't in the area that she was later found? It's not like they could have missed her, because a volunteer who took part in the search stated that she wasn't covered in any foliage at all. It's just so odd that it's quite hard to really wrap your head around that. I suppose the working theory is that she wandered on over to the final position after the searchers cleared the area. But then they shouldn't have stated that she was alive for 7 days. Unless, of course, the press just got that wrong. Though you'd like to think that they get these things right. In practice, though, I'm not so sure a lot of the time anymore. The family, as you might imagine, were not completely convinced by the results of the post-mortem, and this statement was made. We don't want the media to interpret the first results of the autopsy and exclude the criminal hypothesis. It's too early to say that. The family still finds it difficult to understand that she would have gone into the jungle on her own. They are concerned that she did not leave on her own. Even the place where she was found, over a mile away from the resort, it's very strange that she could go there by herself, so we cannot exclude the criminal hypothesis. The Mirror also reported that she had passed away 2 to 4 days before being found. That's very surprising actually, because her body was found in an area already searched just a few days before being found. That is very odd, and I can completely see why the family were asking these questions. In fact, I've got to be honest, based on what I'm reading, I'm finding it difficult to believe as well. Nora's grandfather put this very succinctly, and I found myself in complete agreement of the notion. She wasn't there yet during any of the previous searches. Someone put her there to get rid of her. Can you imagine her walking 2.5 kilometres clothesless and barefoot over rocks in the middle of the night? That's absurd. I would add as well that the area was officially described as being inaccessible, so it's even more strange than that. The parents were completely bewildered by this, and you can probably imagine that. The circumstances in this disappearance are honestly just wild, and I'll tell you why. The only working theory that makes sense here is that Nora got up and left the resort on her own because there is absolutely no forensic evidence to suggest otherwise. And despite that being Occam's razor, it doesn't make any damn sense either, given everything that we've discussed so far. The range of days in which she passed away and then being found, despite a previous search taking place in the area she was discovered in that kind of range, is weird. And on the other hand, you might say, well, hey, it must be that someone came in and took her unwillingly. Well, what is the evidence of that? If there's no evidence of injury, assault, indecent assault, or anything of that nature, what happened? It's also hard to believe that someone had taken her away from the site, because then you need to explain how she was placed back there and why the dogs led to the jungle. Of course, it is possible, but it's made very risky and dangerous because there's so many people out looking for her, including a lot of law enforcement officers. Okay, hang on. Let me be absolutely specific. There was some bruises on her legs and minor cuts on her feet, but they looked to be explainable by suggesting that she'd been walking clothesless in this harsh area. Although, just to clarify, you'd expect far more than just cuts in that kind of terrain. And just to clarify as well, the authorities did say that the bruises on the legs and the cuts would not have caused someone to pass away. It's very difficult to understand what happened here, and it makes me so frustrated when this happens to young people. I mean with everyone really, but you know what I mean, just complete innocence and then something bizarre like this happens. We're not done yet, there's more. I want you to hear this quote. Nora could not have reached the steep ravine where her body was found by herself, a search team member in Malaysia has claimed. The volunteer, an expert in the area, said it would have been impossible for the barefoot 15-year-old to walk across the forest on her own. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this yet, but Nora's disabilities covered both physical and mental. It's just important that we bear that in mind. Let's continue. Nora couldn't have gotten there by herself. I struggle to walk. The path is difficult, but even an able-bodied person, dense vegetation.
Safe area entered.
Inventory.
Agent, priority objective available.
Inventory. Seasons. Inventory.
Target near you. Another agent has joined your group. Detected. Nearby location. Guarded by hostiles.
job. Target neutralized. Good work. Thank you for keeping us safe, Agent.
An agent has left your group. Another agent is now group leader. You are no longer in a group.
Inventory. Seasons. Inventory. Inventory. Apparel. Inventory.
talk, everyone. Geek Village.
Inventory.
Incoming backup request.
Agent, hostiles are retaliating in the East Mall.
Social.
Friendly supply convoy.
We're
detected.
sorry, but we don't have the resources.
This is the place.